Hey CCB, it's April 2nd, so it's not an April Fool's joke. It's good to see you guys again, even though I'm not seeing you. I'm just updating you, you're seeing me. Want to give you a few updates on CCB, just some practical business things of what we're doing as a church, but also share a little bit today about some thoughts that I'm having just as a pastoral kind of chat on where I think some of the things are heading after this coronavirus. So first, we want to apologize for the audio problems that we experienced during this last Sunday's stream. They should be worked out by this weekend. So at the least, we should be able to hear the praise and the preaching and the rest of the presiding of the service better. So please be patient. We're trying to work this out, and we have people working on the audio technical stuff, trying to do this better. As a side note to that, if you're interested in learning and being a helper in terms of our audiovisual, our technological streaming and web stuff, that's stuff that we're looking for help in. And so we want to limit the amount of people that are there on Sundays to crew the filming of the worship. But we do need some people to start getting trained in sound and some of the technical aspects. So if you're interested, give me an email. You can email me at chris@christcentralbuffalo.com. And we're coming up on Holy Week, which is in the church calendar, the time between Palm Sunday, which is this Sunday, and Easter, which is the following Sunday. And during that week, it's a good tradition to remember the suffering, passion, and death of Jesus Christ as we look forward to his resurrection. And so to celebrate that, we're going to be doing a couple things. First, Good Friday. Good Friday, the date of that is going to be April 10th. We're going to be holding a Good Friday devotional at 8 o'clock through Zoom, and we're going to simultaneously be live streaming that to our YouTube account. Now, it is going to be a devotional, probably about 35 to 40 minutes, and it's going to be focused really more on singing and prayer with a little bit of devotional meditation on the cross and of Christ's death. So we're going to give instructions on how to join that through our website. It'll basically be a Zoom link that you can jump into. We'll have some singing led by Danny on Zoom. And if you are not able to navigate that, we'll also have it streaming to YouTube. So you can just click that and observe with us through that medium if that's how you want to do it. On that day, Good Friday, we're encouraging our church to spend the day in fasting and prayer. This is something that we're joining with all of the PCA. Our denomination is calling for a day of prayer and fasting on Good Friday, as well as I think it's the North American Anglican Church and the EPC, Evangelical Presbyterian Church. We're all trying to get a lot of us together to pray and fast on that day, praying for our nation, praying for this epidemic, praying for individuals who are suffering economically, financially, in various ways. So would you consider joining us on that Good Friday in fasting food for the day and then spending the day in prayer for the various needs for this church, for his nation? And we're going to be doing that together. So it might be a good day to fast other things as well besides food. Perhaps it's a good day to fast some internet, fasting some non-essential media. Consider what you might do to make that day worshipful as we meditate on the death of Jesus Christ. With that, Easter, we're going to have a fairly simple service as we normally do. Unfortunately, we can't do much more on that Easter day in terms of, Lord's Supper, baptisms and sacraments. We can't really do much more in terms of food, but we pray that, we hope that on that day you'll celebrate that with your family in some meaningful way, or people inside your house, or if nothing else, make it a personal day of devotion and a reflection. This is a really odd Easter. It's a interesting, unique Easter in that the day that we typically celebrate and are filled with worship joy, reflecting on resurrection, is going to be at the height of the coronavirus inside the U.S. I think Easter Sunday, Easter week, may be about as bad as it gets for our nation. And so our hope and our prayer for you is that you really will throw yourself upon Jesus Christ in the hope of his resurrection as your only hope eternally, no matter what may happen to our nation, to our cities. As we're going to see things get worse before they get better, Easter is going to remind us that ultimately only Jesus Christ is going to be the hope for the world. And so let's pray that becomes real for us. Let's pray that becomes a solid hope and joy as we face a darker Easter maybe than we have in many, many years, maybe than we ever have in our lives. So it'll be challenging in that sense. So those are some of the things we're doing. We had good feedback on our Zoom hangout after the worship service, so we're going to be doing that again. We'll encourage you guys to join. We're figuring out the best way to do the breakout rooms and all that. It's a little bit hectic, but we can sense it's still good. So join us again for Zoom as we do that. And let me just share a couple thoughts on coronavirus. If you want to check out, that's it for the business side of the updates. Man, this is a really fascinating and challenging time as we're thinking through what it really means to not only be a Christian, but just to be an American, to be surviving and flourishing in the aftermath of all this. A lot of people, a lot of sociologists, a lot of psychologists and others who are considering what this really means for our nation are, I think, quickly coming to some consensus that this is, if not equal to, perhaps more society changing than 9/11. It might be in some ways socially equivalent to things like the Great War, World War II, to the great revolutions of our whole past century, that this is going to be one of those for us. It looks likely that with the way things are going, that we'll see hundreds of thousands, maybe more than 100,000 people dying, and not just dying, that we might expect in ways like car crashes or illnesses that get to be too bad, but there's going to be a bit of a moral, social, and psychological toll, I think, for these deaths, because they're going to have felt preventable in some measure, right? If a person comes rolling in with a car accident, they're bleeding and they're hemorrhaging, and it really looks like we've done all we can, but they still died. That leaves us relatively free in our conscience that we did our best, that we provided the best we could. It's different when you have people that are dying that you feel like you could have done better if the circumstances were just a little bit different. If we had just a few more ventilators, or a few more beds, or if we had just better equipment, better supplies, PPE, and things of that sort. And one of the things that I think it was Andy Crouch who's describing this. It's like there's something in wartime called like a moral offense, moral. I can't remember how you describe it, like a moral kind of shared guilt, in that, if you remember past like the 1918 epidemic, the Spanish flu, it's interesting that there wasn't a whole lot of art and writing and reflection about all the hundreds of thousands of deaths in that time, and it seems like there was almost a kind of a national shame and guilt around that. People didn't really seem very proud of what they did in the aftermath of many people getting sick, and that does seem to happen socially. People they look back at how they conducted their lives when things became scarce, when panic and fear were on the horizon, and it can leave kind of an emotional heaviness as we consider what could have been done better, what could we have done better, that resulted in more suffering, more death. And so that's something that we might be dealing with in the coming years, maybe at least the coming year. I think we're going to see, the idea of, at least in terms of church and relationships, the idea of first in, last out. If the government first starts recommending 500 people or less, 500 people or more to stop meeting, then 250 or more to stop meeting, then 100 people or more, then 50 or more. As this begins to loosen up again, they're not going to just loosen up to be like 5,000 people can meet all at once. And so you're likely going to see smaller meetings become open successively until larger meetings start to become open. And so what I think that's going to do, I can only, speculate on this, but what a lot of churches are considering is this might really change the church landscape to a large degree. You might not see churches like mega churches open up for a long time. And if they do, they're going to open up in some very different ways, perhaps multiple services or streaming, breakout services. But they're going to have to find new ways to kind of do worship. And I think all of us are going to have to adapt to that. We might see, at least at first, smaller meetings becoming church for a while until larger meetings can start to go back to the way that they were. I think that's going to change some of the landscape. I mean, at this point, the ones suffering the most, church plants and old churches, older languishing churches, unfortunately may need to close their doors in the next 6 months. And I think we're going to see churches consolidate more often. We're going to see, some smaller churches unfortunately close their doors and attach themselves to churches that continue to survive and carry on. I think we're going to see some changes in the ways that people, I think, who are more nominal Christians, who are coming in for more of the program and for the worship experience, more than being having a belonging inside of a covenant community, may go away. I think we're going to see the evaporation of a lot of nominal Christians. But what I think we will see as a result of that, and I'm just praying and hoping that this happens, is that we're going to see a lot more of people posing questions about life, the value of life and community. We're going to see Christians who value church, and I mean the body of the church, cherish it in ways that maybe we neglected in the past. And so this is just speculation. I've been thinking through this stuff. I've been, reading some things, listening to podcasts. I'm trying to think through. But I do think that, church is going to need to adapt in some significant ways coming up. Not every church is going to dwindle, right? Some churches I think are going to be poised to come through stronger. I'm hoping and praying CCB does. CCB, I think we're in a relatively stronger position than some other churches that are facing some really dark times. I think we're in a relatively stronger position socially in terms of our group dynamic. I think we're in a stronger position in terms of our leadership and like we could call on people to serve and to get behind the wheel and to work and serve in ways that might be more of a challenge than some other churches. So if we can get through the next 6 months, if we can get through the next year, I think we're going to be poised to actually perhaps grow with some advantages. But it's going to be a challenge. It's going to be testing us. And so what I want to encourage you to do, and this is just, talking to CCB, talking to our members, I think that really does mean you got to kind of gird your loins for battle. Be ready to serve, be ready to be hospitable, be ready to give, be ready to remain committed to your brothers and sisters financially, in terms of time, in terms of the sacrifice that you might need to make to your own schedules, to your personal conveniences. Be ready to change the things that were optimal before. We might not be able to come back at the same kind of meetings in the same ways. We might need to adjust around restoration and their schedules and the things they're going to do in the future. There's going to be all kinds of challenges coming up. But if we weather them well, if we come together as Christian brothers and sisters and love our neighbor, love our brothers and sisters as Christ has loved us, love God and make him the priority of our lives and our families' lives, and we very well may see Christ Central Buffalo come through far stronger in the next 2 years because of this, in ways that we could not have orchestrated or strategized or planned, but because God is sovereign and is providential and he knows what he's doing. And I think, without being proud, without being, reckless or cavalier, we need to depend on God, and we're going to be facing some tough times. I think we can be hopefully optimistic and trusting in the Lord that, that we're going to see good things as a result of this. I think we're going to see some people give their lives to the Lord. I think we're going to see some people come into church that never would have stepped foot in there before. I think we're going to see opportunities to love our neighbors that we were praying for a long time, that suddenly the bill is on the table, and we're going to have the choice whether we're going to pay that or not, and serve and love our neighbors or not. So we need wisdom in knowing how best to do that. We want to be able to serve our church well and make sure that we survive. But we've always said this, we don't want it to be just a church that survives. What's the point of it being a church that just survives and serves ourselves? We want to be a church that is actively pursuing our vision with wisdom, prudence, discretion, wise counsel, all that. But we are about God. We are about Christ as he's becoming the center of our world and of our nation, city, our church, and our families and our personal lives, and that's not going to change. And so it's a bit of a longer update. We miss you guys, and I hope you're like me in some sense, that your hunger and desire to see church. Zoom's going to fatigue you. YouTube will fatigue you. It already is, I think. But may that not fatigue you on God. May that just whet your appetite and give you a deeper hunger for His church. And I think He's going to be taking care of us. So yeah, that's the update. And I shaved. It's just a coronavirus shave, so it'll come back, I think, when things settle down. But yeah, miss you guys. We'll see you guys again. And as always, if you need to reach out to us for any reason, contact us. session@christcentralbuffalo.com. You can reach me. Office hours are always open. At least digital office hours. I love seeing you guys, and we'll keep connected. All right, love you guys. See you later.